Hello children. Good morning everyone. I hope every one of you is fine and taking care of yourself and your family. Children, I am your new science teacher and my name is Shaheen Miss, and I am going to teach you science for this academic year. So, I heartily welcome you all to K-Tech High School and Junior College. Today, we shall be starting with the new lesson, that is lesson number 2, the living world. So, let's begin. Children, there are many kinds of plants and animals around us, isn't it? We can see them. Now, children, they show some similarities and some differences, isn't it? Yet, children, with the help of certain features, we can tell that they are all living things. So, let us see first these differences between living and non-living things. As you can see on your screen, children, living things can breathe, eat, grow, move, and reproduce, right? Whereas non-living things, they don't breathe, they don't eat, they don't grow, move, and they do not reproduce, right? And children, living things have senses. That means living things can feel, right? The hotness, the coldness, right? So, living things have senses, whereas non-living things, they don't have senses. Examples of living things are plants, animals, etc. Whereas the examples of non-living things are table, the books kept on the table, etc. So did you understood the difference between living and non-living things, children? Good. So these features are not seen in living things and some features are seen in living things. So such features are said to be the characteristics of living things. Understood? So, in this lesson, we are going to learn about various characteristics of living things. So, what are those, children? The first characteristics of living things is growth, respiration, excretion, response to stimuli and movement, reproduction, a definite lifespan, and a cellular structure. So these are the characteristics of living things. So let us study these characteristics one by one. Okay? The first characteristic which we are going to study is growth. Children, look at this picture. What differences do we see between the young ones and the adults in this picture? Yes, correct. You could see a small baby which is gradually growing up into an adult, right? So first we can say that baby grows up to become an adult. It could be a woman or a man, right? Now during the period of its growth, the baby gains height, weight and strength, right? You can observe here on your screen as well as you can observe yourself also when you were small baby and now you are gradually grown up and you are in the sixth standard now. So what the difference you could observe in yourself? Yes, you have gained your height, right? Then you have also gained weight, and as you are growing you are also gaining strength, right? Yes. In the same manner also, children, all animals grow into the adults in a certain period. Generally, humans require 18 to 21 years for this complete growth. Understood? Now look here. Hen requires 7 to 8 months for growth. Okay? And a dog requires 17 to 18 months for growth. Have you all understood this, children? Good. Children, let's try an experiment. As you can see here on your screen, there are two pots, right? So tie a thread to the tip of a potted sapling. Keep the thread stretched and tie it to a peg or nail above the plant. What do you observe after 10 to 15 days? What tells us that the plant has grown taller? So here we can observe, children, as the plant is growing, the thread which we have tied start to get loose, right? The thread loosens. So here we can say that we can observe that plant is growing. So basically its height is growing, its width is growing, right? So in all plant it is mainly the width and the height of the stem that grows. So as they grow, they are some plants they develop branches, right? And the height is growing. So here we can observe while doing this experiment that a plant is growing, that means its stem is growing. Understood this experiment? Good. Children, though all living things grow, animals grow only for a certain period. Plants, on the other hand, grow as long as they live. The growth of living things occurs within the body, which means that growth occurs in all parts of the body. For example, here you can see a coconut tree, right? A tree from the seed, it is growing to a sapling, then to a plant, then it grows to a huge tree. Understood? Children, can you tell me what is necessary for the growth? Yes, food. Food is necessary for growth in all the living organisms, right? So let's see the food necessary for growth in plants. Now children, we know that plants make their own food, right? With the help of sunlight, plants make their own food. Plants produce food from water, nutrients in soil and carbon dioxide present in the air. So children, what is this process called? Yes, this process is called as photosynthesis, right? It happens or it occurs in the presence of sunlight. And children, the green color which is present in the leaves, right? with the help of that, what it is called as? Chlorophyll. Absolutely correct. With the help of chlorophyll present in the leaves and in the presence of sunlight, with the help of water, nutrients in soil and carbon dioxide in air, plant produces its food with the process called photosynthesis. Understood? So, plants take in carbon dioxide present in the air and they give out oxygen. So in this way they produce their food and which is stored in the plants in the different parts of the plants. Understood, children? And this stored food helps the plant to grow. Similarly, children, animals, however, do not have chlorophyll, right? So they do not produce their own food. Instead, they have to search for food, right? They have to search for their food. Animals such as goats, sheep, horses eat grasses, right? They eat grass as their food, while the wild animals such as tigers and lions meet their need for food by hunting other animals which lives on plants, right? And wild animals like tigers and lion, if they want food to eat, so what they do? They hunt other animals, right? And get their food. Understood, children? So what we can say that the intake of food and the resultant growth is an important characteristics of living thing. Understood, everyone? Good. Now let's move to the next characteristic, that is respiration. Children, hold your hand in front of your nose or keep your hand on your chest. What do you feel? Or else, if we observe a sleeping dog, what movement of its belly do we see? We see that the movement is upwards and downward. That means the living things need oxygen in order to live, right? So what is exactly happening? Inhaling oxygen and exhaling the carbon dioxide from in the body due to the use of oxygen, right? That means what is actually happening, children? Respiration is happening. Very good, right? What is respiration? Inhaling of oxygen and exhaling of carbon dioxide is called respiration. Understood now what do you mean by respiration? Good. Children, animals such as fish, snake, mouse, etc. they have a special organ for respiration. Now look here. Fish, it requires gills for respiration, right? Fish respire through gills. Okay? And on the other hand, plants respire by means of small microscopic pores on their stems and leaves. As you can see on your screen, children, plants respire through small pores which are called as stomata, which are present on the leaves and stem. So plant respire through these small pores. Understood, children? So what we can say here? Respiration is a characteristics of living thing. Okay? Understood, everyone? Good. Children, the next characteristic which we are going to learn is excretion. Children, is all the food what we eat is used by our body? No, right? And what is the unused part of the food converted into? So let's study this. What happens to the unused part? That is the waste part of the food. Children, the waste substances which are formed during many processes that takes place in the bodies of animals. So these waste substances are called as excreta. Okay, what it is called as? Excreta. And the process of eliminating them from the body, that means giving out, passing out from the body, is called as excretion. Okay, what is excretion? The process of removing waste substances from the body is called excretion. Understood? And the waste substance is called as excreta. Animals have specific organs for excretion. Now children, like animals, plants too excrete. That means plants also perform excretion. For example, some plants shed their leaves in a specific season. Waste substances which are stored in the leaves of plants are shed along the leaves. Understood? So, through shedding of leaves, plants show excretion. Now look at this picture, children. In the first picture, you could see that gum oozing out of the branches. You must have observed this, children. When a small part breaks of a plant, gum oozes out. So this is a way of excretion. And also you must have been observing this, that latex oozing out of the branches, right? The white milky thing which you observe, which oozes out of the branches. Yes, this is also one of the way of excretion in plants. So what we can say here, children? That excretion is a characteristic of living things. Understood? Okay. Let us study the next characteristic, that is responsiveness to stimuli and movement. Now children, answer me. Have you ever experienced this? What happens immediately after the following actions? First, if the light flashes suddenly into your eyes, what will you do? Yes, we try to close our eyes, right? Suddenly, if you felt a pin prick, someone pricks you with a pin. So, what we do? We feel the pain, right? The leaves of mimosa plant were touched. We know that mimosa plant, if we touch, it closes, right? And at sunset, lamps on the streets or courtyards are lit and insects gather around the lamp, right? So what is actually all this happening, children? Yes, living things acts in various way when responding to a stimulus. Now, if you suddenly enter a cow shed, So what will happen? The cows and the buffaloes will stand up and they will start to move, right? One or two may even start moving. So what are these? These are all movements. Okay? A creeper which is planted in the courtyard leans towards a support. A potted plant placed in a window grows towards the sunlight. So what does this mean, children? It means that plants too show movement. Living things move of their own accord. That means living things, they move according to their own will, right? So this movement or the change taking place in a living thing at such time is their response to a stimulus. Okay? So what is a stimulus, children? It is an event that occurs in the surrounding is called a stimulus. Okay, any event that occurs in a surrounding is called a stimulus, and the ability of living things to respond to a stimulus is called their responsiveness to stimuli. Are you getting me, children? That means, for example, a light is being flashed suddenly into your eyes. So that is a stimulus. And what are we doing? We are closing our eyes at that time. So we are responding to that stimulus. So this ability of living things to respond to a stimulus is called their responsiveness to stimuli. So we can say responsiveness to stimuli is a characteristic of living things. The next characteristic is reproduction. Children, what is reproduction? What do you mean by it? Living things, they produced other living things like themselves. Okay? Living things, they produce other living things like themselves. Some animals, they give birth to their young ones. As you can see on your screen, children, there is horse, elephant, cow, giraffe, a dog, right? So these are some of the examples of animals which give birth to their young one. While some animals, they lay eggs, right? Some birds, like, see, you can see on your screen, hens. Okay, so what are these animals? They reproduce by laying eggs. Their young ones hatch out of the eggs, right? And we get a new young ones of those animals. Like animals, plants also reproduce. New plants are produced from seeds, stems, or leaves of a plant. Here, for example, you can see a rose plant. So, children, what is reproduction? The process by which a living thing generates a new living thing like itself is called reproduction or procreation. What is reproduction? It is the process by which a living thing will generate a new living thing like itself. It is called as reproduction or procreation. So children, reproduction is a characteristic of living thing. Understood, children? So let us quickly revise what we have learned in this video. So we have learned various characteristics of living things. The first one is growth. The intake of food and resultant growth is an important characteristic of living things. Second, respiration. Respiration is a characteristic of living things. Next characteristic we have learnt is excretion, right? Excretion is also a characteristic of living things. Next is responsiveness to stimuli. It is also a characteristic of living thing. And lastly, what we have learned today is reproduction is also a characteristic of living things. I hope every one of you have understood today's lecture. Children, kindly watch the video attentively and then read the lesson for better understanding. We shall meet you in the next lecture with the new topic. Till then, take care children. Thank you.